Welcome to the Thomas House Hotel in Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee, a place where history and hauntings intertwine. This is Sex and Chill.
Thanks, friends, for joining us and listening. This is Lou, Shay, and Kay, and we're thrilled to be talking about the Thomas Hotel House today with you all. We have cast our circle, and we invite you to cast your circle as well, because we're going to be talking about some spooky things, hopefully.
Ghosts.
You don't even know the experiences that Kay and I experienced at the Thomas House this past weekend doing a ghost hunt.
Yes, we stayed at the hotel and a part of a ghost hunting experience. So it was just us and the people who joined the ghost hunting. It was 23, I think, guests. This company rents out the Thomas Inn, and so it's just the people who are ghost hunting. Like, there's no other guests there. Mm-hmm. So it was like a really fun experience because you had the whole place to ourselves who were ghost hunting. There were a lot of people there.
Yeah, there were.
But
they said that this is like one of the bigger
groups. Yeah, usually it wasn't as big as, it was sold out.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Also, for our listeners, this is Lou speaking. I was not able to join, so this is actually my first time hearing, so we're going to get to experience this together, and I am just super pumped to hear about y'all's experience.
We did give a little bit of history in our last podcast episode about all of the Tennessee's haunted locations that we're interested in. So if you want a full backstory, please go check out that episode. But for now, if you missed out on that episode, we'll do just a little brief synopsis.
Yes. All right. So the Thomas House was originally built in the 1890s by the Cloyds. It was first known as the Cloyd Hotel. And the Cloyds are the people that we interacted with several times while we were there. So it was cool to know their history beforehand and then get to actually experience the Cloyds themselves. It was a healing hotel. It had these properties in the waters, the minerals. And when we were there, the sulfur smell was so strong. It was, you could tell, like, especially in the house, it was like, you're like, what is that smell? And they're like, oh, that's the red sulfur, the stuff that actually didn't heal you but made you sick. And you're like, oh, cool.
Well, okay, actually, I was looking up, there actually are some good properties to sulfur. They're actually known for it's antimicrobial and skin soothing. So there are some healing properties, but I think there was a little bit of a...
They thought they were going to get like healed from sicknesses and stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think because of the way that the house was built on top of the springs, it was good outside because it was like you could aerate everything and not technically just straight up smell sulfur. But when you're inside the house, all you smell is that sulfur smell, and that actually can be harmful.
Yeah, and this place was booming back in the day. It would have been, if it was successful, it would have been like Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Okay.
But because of the war and everything, no one was coming to these hotels.
Yeah, and
people didn't have money to come.
Well, not only that, this was like one of the main towns, but when the highways were built to connect all of the major cities, the highway no longer went by Red Boiling Springs.
Have you ever seen Cars?
Yep.
That's what it is.
Radiator Springs.
Oh my God.
Literally the same thing.
Maybe the animators knew. They were like, guys.
Yep.
I know this little place in Tennessee.
Isn't Radiator Springs supposed to be in like New Mexico or something?
Yeah, but I mean, like, they probably like
it's in Tennessee. It's fine.
Oh, okay. My bad.
A lot of like, I'm sure little towns like this is what happened to them. So the inspiration for all that. It did actually, the house burnt down and was rebuilt in the 1924s. And by that time, it had changed the name Thomas House Hotel. And that's what it stays today. And this was after the Cloyds had left. And over the years, the hotel has gained a reputation as one of America's most haunted locations. Guests and staff report unexplained phenomena like doors opening and closing on their own, apparitions drifting through the hallways, and eerie sounds of children's laughter echoing through the halls. One of the most well-known things is the whistle. Mr. Cloyd walks up and down the halls whistling, and it is Mr. Cloyd. We kind of got information through our investigation that it kind of made it sound like it was the great-grandfather, but it is Mr. Cloyd that whistles. I did research on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Mr. Cloyd, who is the owner, is known to walk up and down the hallways whistling, and people who knew him in life reported that he did this when he was alive as well.
I'm curious about that only because when we like did our investigation, like, yes, the people there said it, but then also like when we did our investigation, it like somewhat confirmed that it was the grandfather.
Yeah, but like historically it was Mr. Cloyd that whistled. So like it might have answered thinking that it was Mr. Cloyd. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when things answer, it's hard to that veil.
Yeah.
But it was Mr. Cloyd that whistled. And so people hear him whistling. So if you're quiet enough and you wait, a lot of times the whistle will come. And we waited like all night for the whistle because it's like one of the main things. And at one point, me and Shay did hear this very faint, like very far away. And I asked my husband later because it was on the side of where he was and he didn't hear it. And it was just me and Shay. And we're like, did you hear that? We both looked at each other immediately.
Yeah.
And we were like, did you hear that? And everyone else was like, no, what did you hear? And we were like, well, maybe we made it up. But it wasn't like, did you hear that? And you're like, yeah, maybe I heard that. Like we looked at each other and was like, did you hear that?
Right. Like we literally like simultaneously at the same time. Like there was no confusion there, but we were like the only ones that heard it, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, it's so bizarre, but also so awesome. Did you guys sleep?
So I'm really sensitive and I'm a light sleeper. So we finished and we'll get into the rest of the.
Sorry,
No.
Listeners, I didn't text them at all while they're on their trip, and I was like the entire time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder what they're doing. Oh my gosh, I should text them. Oh my gosh. But I like reined it in because I wanted to hear all that.
Yes. So we wrapped up our night investigation around 1 a.m. and we then proceeded to go to sleep. My husband, Shay, and her husband were already in the room, and they were like out. Like Shay and her husband were like snoring because they were so tired and they were so passed out. So I'm laying there. My husband already fell asleep really fast. And it takes me a while to fall asleep, but I was laying there and I was fine. And our room didn't feel very thick with anything. It was pretty normal.
It was just a really bad sulfur smell.
Yeah, our side of our hotel was the worst.
Yeah, it smelled really bad.
There is a apparition of a woman who walks through a doorway that they, after the fire, had to like paved over, like rebuilt, and so there's no more doorway there, but there used to be. So there's believed this apparition that is just kind of continuing her route through that door. People have seen that. But when I was asleep, I woke up several times out of my sleep and I like sat up and looked around the room. And at one point, a noise woke me up and it sounded like someone had sat on Shay's bed next to her head. And I looked over and her husband wasn't moving. So I was like, oh, well, maybe he like rolled over. But he wasn't moving. Shay wasn't moving. And I just it just sounded like when like a little kid just like plops down on the bed. And I didn't see it visually, but like I kind of felt like he was just sitting there like moving his legs back and forth. And he had like a hat on and a vest. So like once again, my eyes didn't see it.
Like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Just to like also reframe this image. The way that this room is set up, there's 2 double beds and they're both like, so like it's the door and right up against the same wall that the door is on, both of the beds headboards are on. But this house has settled so much that the beds kind of like go down. Like, and it's like the headboard is going down and your feet are essentially like raised up above your head. And one was already feeling super like ill from the sulfur smell. I was like, I cannot sleep like that. So my husband slept that way, like with his head further down than his feet. But I was like, I'm just going to flip around and I'm going to sleep with my head at the foot of the bed.
Yes, queen.
So after I wake up and Kay tells me that this person sat at the foot of the bed where my head was, I was freaked out.
Yeah, it just kind of like was very playful. So that's why I went back to sleep. It just kind of felt like this little interested being that sat down and wanted to see. And for me, I felt all night two presents that were following us around. And we'll get into that details more, but their names were this little boy named Edwin. I feel like he was following us all night. And it was because before we checked in, we went and visited where the pool was and where he would have drowned. And we found little pieces of the cement blue from the pool that were scattered and where the pool had been pulled, like filled up with rocks and stuff. And so we like took a little piece of that, and I'm wondering if that kind of just connected with us all night with him. And the other one was there was a man who cheated with Mrs. Cloyd. So Mr. Cloyd found his wife with the lover. That's what they call him. And Mr. Cloyd took him out onto the balcony and shot him.
Oh my God.
He fell over the side.
Pushed him over the side, yeah.
And then buried him. So he's somewhere on the property, buried.
Do we know his identity?
No. They just call him the lover. And all night, like we started off in the seance room, which is the living, like they call it the seance room. I don't know why, but because they have a bunch of stuff there now. Yeah. And I felt his presence so strong there. And the guy did not, like she was not talking about him. She was talking about the pastor. So maybe she felt the pastor there. But like, I was like, he's like sitting in this chair next to this dead bell, which is this bell that if a presence gets near it, it's like it
essentially goes off.
Yeah, a little bell that you hit at the desk. Ding. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. You know, you were like trying to get someone's attention at a hotel.
What you're talking
ding, ding,
about,
ding, ding. Yeah.
What is that called? Other than a ding, ding, ding?
I don't know. It's a ding, ding, ding. So that was on the table and it kept on going off. And I just felt like there was someone sitting next to it. And I kept on being like, there's a really sad presence over here. And they're like, oh, well, the soldier's normally there. And I was like, no, it doesn't feel like that. And that's just me. Like, I just like, once again, I never have ever seen anything. I'm hoping for that day when I visually see something, but I can just feel like the presence. So that first room was really cool. I think that was one of our best
experiences.
Was in the seance room, and that was the first room when lights all went out, and we were like, "Let's investigate." So
yeah, there was a lot of live energy. It was so. I want to dig in a little bit about what Kay was talking about with our guide. Our guide was talking a lot about this pastor figure. Mm-hmm. So across the street from the Thomas house used to be this church. And apparently the pastor of that church was like a really rotten guy. Like he was extremely judgmental and like just not a nice person. And in November, the church essentially like collapsed. So the man that owns the Thomas house now, Daryl Cole, he actually purchased the church across the street because there was like activity or whatever. And so they had investigated it a bunch of times. And then it was essentially demolished in November.
The rubble's still there. Like it's just like a big pile of like.
There's just a pile of rubble across the street. It's very strange. Like the stairs are there.
Yeah.
But the building is
so
demolished. It's really weird. But since that, like the guide was talking about how this pastor figure has kind of come over to this property and is like essentially like pissed because his home is gone. And the guide was like really, really like hooked on to that. And so the way that this also like this investigative team works is that they actually do 2 nights. So they'll do Friday night and Saturday night. And we went on a Saturday night, so they had already done 1 night of investigation. So she kept referencing things that happened the night before. And so she's like, last night you said this and this and this, or last night you said that you were disappointed and blah, blah, blah. So she kind of kept bringing that up. And it was interesting to hear her talk about that, but I also felt like there was a lot of things interjecting. So like there were people sitting here from like, I think we had like 7 people in our group.
Yeah.
Kay and I both had like Spirit Talker on our phones. There was another person across the table from me who also had Spirit Talker. Another person who had Ghost Tube up. Then there was like some other people that had a REM pod, and then Dead Bell, cat balls. We had a pendulum going. We also had EMF readers or K2 readers. There was a lot of equipment going on. There was a tripwire across the table.
Which for me, sometimes I think it was too much because I'm like, there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of things to come through, but then what are you talking to?
Right, exactly.
Right, what do you want to get through this? So maybe there was at one point I was like, maybe the pastor is here, but the spirit box did say, I'm leaving. And at that point, I was like, he left.
Yeah.
And then we kept on pushing for it, but I was like, nah, he said what he wanted to say. And I think it's really cool that the night before they did get like the spirit talker said Matthew, the book of Matthew, and it said Revelation. Like, so, like it was very, oh, this sounds like the pastor.
Yeah.
And so I think our God was really excited about the evidence she got the night before, so she wanted to get more. But I just don't think the pastor was into it.
Yeah.
You know? The fun thing is that we had that experience. Shay did have someone like almost sit next to her. Like the temperature dropped at the table.
There was a cold presence sitting next to me. So there was an empty chair next to me. I left it open because I thought that either Kay's husband was going to sit there or one of the other investigators that we met named Todd. I thought he was going to sit there, but he ended up sitting in the corner. And so I was like,
my husband sat in the other corner. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was just like, oh, okay. Just a empty seat next to me. But it kind of was cool because it literally invited someone to the table.
Yeah. And to jump back, one of the first things we did there is we met a couple named Todd and Donna. And they are this couple that have been investigating for the past, I think, 2 years. They got really into it. They went to this one location. Donna's really into it. Todd was like, I'll go with you. And then they went to the distillery and had an amazing experience. And then he was like, I'm hooked. Let's buy stuff. Let's go. He's like, really, they have these like matching cute shirts.
Yeah.
It's like,
shout out to Paranormal Adventure couple.
Yeah. Todd and Donna.
You can find them on TikTok. Well, they're Paranormal Adventure Co. on TikTok. Yes. So you should give them a follow. And
they had a bunch of fun. So they had the dead bell. They had the REM pod. Okay. They brought a lot of stuff.
They had an IR camera. Like, I mean, they were doing it all.
Like they came up to us at dinner and were like, hey, so we told the guide that we want to investigate with you. Is that okay? And we're like, yes. Like we were so excited. So they were with us. But the one thing that happened to me and Todd that no one else heard is that we were in this corner and it was almost like this like scratching against the wall. And I kind of had glanced over and Todd was also looking over and then I kind of ignored it. And then he like looked back over and I looked back over and he said, did you hear that? And I was like, did you hear that? And he was like, the scratching? I was like, yeah, like it was like tapping, scratching. And we're like, what's on the other side of that wall? And they're like, nothing. That's like,
that's outside.
That's outside.
Like, that's, yeah.
And so we were like, that's cool. And that kind of led us to be like, we ended up going into the library, which is next door. And normally that's not a spot where we go. So the 3 places were Green Hall, White Hall, and the seance room. We did 3 rotations. And we went to each of those locations because those are the most haunted. So it's not normal to go into the library. But the first thing we did when we went there was me and Shay went to the bathroom and across is the library. She went in there and then came out and was like, Kay, come here. And I was like, and I walked in and I was like, dear God.
Like and it literally felt like we weren't supposed to be there.
It was this dark heaviness in this like left corner.
Oh, it was so dark. Like it was like really strange. It was still daylight outside.
Yeah. It like, just felt thick. Thick is a good word, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we were really excited that we're like, oh, good, we're going to go investigate in there. So we went in there and we sat down and everyone was like, yeah, that corner's weird. And that's the one that we felt. So it was like a validation that everyone was like, ooh, that's...
But then when we sat down, it shifted.
It like moved to the side next to my husband. And the guide was like, do you guys feel like it's over there? And Shay was like, no, I don't feel it over there anymore. I feel it next to me. And she was next to my husband. And my husband like puts out his hand and he was like, and this is his experience. Like this is the one that he's been talking about. It was like deathly cold, like right where his hand was. And the guide was like, yeah, I feel like there's something really tall and dark standing there. And that's what Mr. Cloyd usually looks like.
Right.
And so we started talking to it. We're like, Mr. Cloyd, is this you? The dead bell kept on ringing, like to answer things. And so like we asked lots of questions and the dead bell was really active. And I had to grab my flashlight and I put it on the table. The flashlight that we had a lot of activity in Salem with. Mm-hmm. And it, at one point, which the investigator was like, whoa, I've never seen that happen. The dead bell, when you ding it, it lights up blue and then it turns off.
Or green.
Green. And at the exact same time, the dead bell and the flashlight turned on.
Or
it turned off, right?
The dead bell had been rung. And so as soon as the lights were going off, the flashlight turned on.
That's right, yeah.
It was like a literal simultaneous action. It was crazy.
Gosh. And we were like, that's weird. And then all of a sudden, I felt like something cold behind my back, but I ignored it. And then it went over to the side, back to the other corner. And Todd was like, ooh, something's cold over here now. And my husband was like, yeah, it's not cold over here anymore. And one of the ghost box things said, to the right.
Yeah.
And that's where it had went. And we were like,
God.
You can hear us on the recording. We're like, oh my God. And we're like freaking out. So I think that was one of our best experiences. The other two, we had like some things happen, but this one was like one of those ones that was like, oh, okay, this is cool.
I actually think my favorite experience was
you had that.
Before we even started. Well, I think even before we even
started. The mirror, though, that in the other room.
Yeah,
that's one
I
of
do
your
want to
big
talk
ones.
about that.
Yeah.
But no, I think before we even started like the official investigation, when we were sitting in the dining hall, the lights were on, everyone was in there, and we were just hanging out, and I just decided to like get out my spirit talker,
and I threw the flashlight down,
and you put the flashlight down, and we had it just sitting in front of us, and we were talking to something.
It was like speaking, and the flashlight was the most active it's ever been.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have a little snippet
Even more
of it
than at the Daniel's house.
We had a little bit of a moment that we'll show on a TikTok of it happening, but it lasted for a really long time. Like we'd ask a question and be like, Mr. Cloyd, are you here? And then the flashlight would turn on. And then we'd be like, is Sarah here? Is this your daughter? Sarah is another spirit there it's believed to be Mr. Cloyd's daughter. She's in room 37. She's really active. There's tons of toys in there for her. Yeah, real quick. So Mr. Cloyd and Mrs. Cloyd are ghosts that are seen. Sarah is a ghost that's seen. The lover who got killed is a ghost who's seen. There is a man who died in one of the rooms and wasn't found for a few days. His name is Josiah. He's a ghost that's seen in the Green Hall. Madam was a like brothel kind of owner. She like owned ladies and, she's seen. And then Edwin, who is the boy who drowned, and a little girl named Robbie, who was a little girl that died from burns.
Yeah, her dress caught on fire, and she ended up having to go. So they had this like,
the woman's bathroom is where like the doctor's office would have been. So these are the ghosts that are seen, and we kind of got to experience kind of talking to all of them. A lot of times you just talk to the kids in general. But, also when we were running around before the ghost hunts even happened and we visited the pool, like I was talking about, my device said drowned on it. And then it said it was an accident.
Oh my God.
And it said, can you help me? In a row. And we were like, yeah, like if you want to follow us tonight, we can try to help you. And it was so weird because these ghost apps, you're like, I don't know, like sometimes you have them out and they just go off. And so I don't think they're always accurate, but when it is like on the dot, like drowned, it was an accident because it was. His brother was a lifeguard. He left to go eat. And when he came back, he found his little brother drowned in the pool.
Yeah.
So like it was just a really fun moment for us to start off the whole investigation. We're like, oh my God.
Well, and my perspective listening to everything is, first of all of your experiences sound so awesome and I'm so glad, but also the validation that you guys received and your intuition, what you're feeling. And I know you keep saying, I haven't seen anything, but you feel so many things. Mm-hmm. And I think that allows you to see so much more. You like pick up on so many different things, but I just think this was really validating. And I love
it was fun. I was hoping for a moment that was like, oh my gosh, right? Like that was a ghost or like, whatever. But there just was a lot of little things. And I think that's how investigations go until you have that moment that's like, I had a voice on a recorder, because they're not always going to come through like that for you. Yeah. That's why ghost hunters do tons of ghost hunting, right?
I mean, yeah.
Because who knows if the spirits are going to be active that night. And they did say that like this was probably like a pretty low active day. So the fact that we got all this makes us want to go back and like.
Well, and it also makes me wonder, like, if I were a ghost, granted I don't know how ghosts work, but like if I were a ghost, I'm a little introverted. I don't want to talk to all these people.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if there's a bunch of people, nah, girl, I'm going to be staying over here. But if it's just 3 really nice ladies, I'll go talk to them.
I want to talk to those girls. They look cool.
They look nice.
Me and my husband did talk about how at the end of the night, once we had wrapped everything, we went to an area that has a lot of activity that we didn't hit. It's this little like TV area. And it was us and Shay and Donna and Todd. And it was this like really intimate moment where we all were sitting and just kind of being quiet and listening when we had our flashlight out and the dead bell. And that's what I wish like the whole night was. Like,
it was the REM pod, not the dead bell.
Oh, he brought the dead bell out after when you left.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shay had left.
Did it feel... So there were some moments with the dead bell that I kind of thought that the dead bell was
too sensitive. Yeah.
Kitschy. Like I thought it was just like, oh, you're just... Because every time our guide walked towards it, it went off. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then we literally tested it in the White Hall, which was the last space that we investigated. And literally anybody that walked past it, it went off.
Yeah, well, that's what Donna, who owns it, was saying. Because I think in the seance room and in the library, it was working really well.
Yeah.
But then some reason it got really sensitive when we went to the green hallway and the white hallway. Because, yeah, I think when our guide was sitting next to it and it kept on going off, I think because it was just her movement. Because it was going off so much. But like in the library, nobody was close to it.
Yeah, and in the seance room, it was just sitting in the middle of the table. So like, what it was me just moving, setting it off?
Yeah, maybe. So when we moved to our next location, where we're talking about where the dead bell went off a lot, was the green hallway. And this is where Shay saw something in a mirror, and she has a picture of it, so we're probably going to throw it up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so, well, one thing I want to name, too, is, like, while we were in the green hall, I guess where me and Kay both sat across from each other, but where we chose to sit was literally underneath a portal.
Yeah, it was
there were two mirrors facing each other. And I was like, I didn't realize it, but then, like, there was, like, what's it called?
Like a little cabinet. A little hallway.
Something. I forgot what
table.
It's called.
It's called armoire. A benchy table.
Anyway, there was a little table up against the wall underneath. It had a lamp on it. It was like almost like an oil lamp. And then Todd placed the REM pod on that table and sat on the other side. And so I was kind of like, first of all, the picture looks really trippy because the mirror that was on the wall, like that I'm sitting on this wall with it, is like white, but because it's black and the REM pod was just sitting there, it glows red. So the whole white rim of the mirror is like this creepy glowing red. And the other mirror, I think, is just like is like a wooden frame.
Yeah, and that's the one I was staring at. The wooden frame.
Was I staring at the white one?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And it was a little higher up, so I didn't see much. So when Shay was like, "Hey, there's something in this mirror," like I had to like stand up and look, and there was just this like ominous black.
Right. Like it literally was just like there is just darkness right here.
It almost like it blacked, like it was just like the darkness just got stronger on one side of the mirror.
And I was like, I'm like, and it was just something that I just kept seeing, and it was just there, and it was just hanging out. And so I kept trying to take pictures of it to try to like capture what I was seeing. And like literally it took like 17 pictures, and none of them captured exactly what I was seeing. None of them really captured anything except the last one. When you look at the photo, you can see a couple things actually. You can see kind of this like weird, like it looks like a porcelain doll face. And then on the other side, like kind of like in the same image, you see just this dark outline of like a head and like upper torso.
And it's in the white mirror and not in the wooden mirror, right?
Well, I'm taking a picture of the wooden mirror looking at the white mirror.
So when you're looking at the photo, are you looking in the red line?
You are looking into a portal. You're looking at what I was looking at.
But the image, would the image be in the red circle of the man, or is the man?
Yes, it would be inside the red circle.
So when our viewers go and look, this is what she saw. I see the doll face right away. When you showed it to me, I was like, doll face.
You guys sent it to me and you're like, do you see anything? And do you remember what I said?
You said there's a face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw that for sure.
Yeah. But then when you kind of put your brightness all the way up and you kind of zoom in, then you see that shadow figure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I was looking at.
Oh, like
the whole time.
Above the doll head, like standing above it?
No, like on the right side of the picture.
Ooh. Yeah. Anyways, this photo was cool. And the thing is that why Shay can see it so well is because she was staring at it. So she knows exactly what to look for because like
right, exactly.
The photo is not capturing it completely, but her eyes were seeing. I was
staring at this figure.
And when I looked with you, I saw it. Like there was just this black.
And I think the other reason that I feel very confirmed that this was a figure is because later it was gone.
Yeah.
It wasn't there anymore.
And it wasn't there when you started too. Like
right.
when you were first looking in them.
Right. I mean, I also wasn't like paying as much attention, but then as we were kind of investigating, I was like, wait a minute, this is a portal.
And the thing that was interesting about this hallway is that when I had my ghost app open, I got like several like dark words. Like it was.
Yeah. It was like, do you love Satan?
Yeah.
Or something like
do you
that.
like, you like Satan? It was like one after the other. It was like these really like dark words. And we were like, and then you saw that. So whatever it was, I felt like was bringing this.
It was really dark energy.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened in the green hallway, which I thought was confirmation, you know, some people feel some type of way about dowsing rods, but I thought that this was cool because we had not previously talked about it. And our guide previously had said, since she was, you know, really hooked on the whole pastor thing, that like usually when they ask this question, they like the dowsing rods point directly to them. So she tells the question to the other guide to ask the dowsing rods and doesn't tell everybody else. So as soon as like she just like gets set up, she's like straighten the rods straighten on their own. And then she goes, who in this room is a witch? Mm-hmm. And instead of the dowsing rods doing what our guide claimed that they usually do, which is go directly to her, they point it directly to Kay.
And they're like, because it was almost like this joke. They're like, watch, it's going to point to us. And then it pointed to us. And she was like, oh, it pointed to both of us. No, those rods were both pointing.
They were both pointing to Kay.
And I was like, well, I am a witch. And and it was funny because I was like, oh man, I ruined their joke. But I was like,
no. That's confirmation for us that this is a real thing because we hadn't said one word about us being witches.
Yeah. Okay, so listen to this. So my thing said, the land, free, I was conjured. Do you like Satan? Reflections deceive.
While I was literally talking about looking in the mirror.
Yeah. We lost our lives here. And the other one earlier said, I was killed. And we were just talking about the man who had found dead in that room. And so we were
yes. And for context, too, where we were sitting in the green hall was right outside the door that they believe Mr. Cloyd caught Mrs. Cloyd having an affair.
Yeah.
And right across from that door on the hallway is a door to the balcony where he was shot.
Yeah. And it was weird because, like, once again, like from the seance room, I was like really feeling that presence of that man who died.
Yeah.
And it was like a coincidence that we had found out. And actually, I wanted to tell you this. Remember when we first pulled up and there was those two guys sitting on the balcony?
Yeah.
My first thought was, one's going to fall off. And then later find out that someone did fall off. Like, it was like a weird thing. My brain was like really, almost like, I was like, oh, they need to be careful. They're going to fall off. You can fall off from that balcony. And I had not heard about this story. So I'm like, later when my brain went back to this, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool to think about. Like,
you were already like envisioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later you were like, oh yeah, we should go find the body. Which, funny story, at the end of the trip, we did take the Tesla onto private property to see if the Tesla
we took the Tesla off-roading to see if we could find any ghosts. I don't know if you know this, but this is a thing.
Yes, it
like
worked.
You can just like drive around and like little people will like pop up.
Shut the
even when there's
door.
no people there.
Yeah, literally, we were like, oh, we should test this out. And so we were driving, and we didn't look up a graveyard. We just were like, oh, look at that bridge. We should drive onto that bridge. And so we drove onto the bridge, went up this hill, and found a graveyard.
And literally just found a graveyard.
And we were like, go in there. And Shay's husband's like, we're not going to go in there. We're like, go in there. So he was like, fine. So we pull into the graveyard, and instantly there was someone,
like a group of people. A group of people.
And there was no one there. And then it would like bleep it out.
How does the Tesla technology work to do that?
I don't know. It
electromagnetic frequencies.
It sees people. So like if you're standing there,
how does it see people? Like what?
I don't know.
Is a ghost like spirit, whatever, giving off that
electromagnetic frequencies?
That's what it is.
Yeah,
I guess.
That's
or like
wild.
Maybe like a signature, a heat, a cold. I don't know what, but
maybe
a heat signature is like sometimes when you see a ghost with a thermal.
Yeah, but it can't be temperature, because then my Tesla would show
red and
all sorts of things all the time. So,
but it was weird because you're like, I had seen this.
That is
how we like met Todd and Donna is because they also had a Tesla.
Yeah.
And so they were talking to each other.
I was like,
Tesla
squad.
And then I had mentioned that because I had just seen a TikTok about it, and they're like, oh yeah, we actually did it, and we saw people, and we were like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. And so we did it. We actually have a TikTok of it, so we'll throw it up there. Oh, we have to show you.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
And then we went to another graveyard and nothing. That's the other thing.
That is so
nothing.
wild.
And it's not like it randomly picks up people. Right, like it was like,
right. It's not like it's also like misconstruing the headstones or anything for a person. No, like it very, very clearly picked up. This is a garbage can.
Yeah.
This is a cone.
This is a person.
This is a person
in the graveyard.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is anytime we're going on our ghost adventures, we have to either rent a Tesla or we're taking Shay's car.
Yes, that's
Beautiful.
correct.
Beautiful.
So that happened. That was really cool. We moved to the White Hallway, which is one of the most haunted places, and really
that is where we heard the whistle, though.
We did hear the whistle, but other than that, it was. Oh. And there was that dark shadow at the end of the hall that someone caught on the camera.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Nothing happened except for.
It was like really I remember this actual physical piece of evidence they had, that someone caught.
That's true. They had like a grid that like was green. So if like something walks in front of it, it makes it black. And in one of the rooms, you could see this very tall with a long. It was like a weird long
brim
hat,
like a bowler hat.
Yeah.
What, so that was
hat? No, a bowler, like the bowler hat man.
Bowler hat man. No, but
no,
like
because it's not long enough.
Just kidding. But now I get to say those because I've watched that show now and I can be in on our jokes.
So that hallway was that, and the whistling was cool.
Also, before we investigated, when we were sitting outside of Sarah's room, that's something we might want to talk about too. I don't know if they actually found what they were looking for, but anyway, when we were sitting outside of that room, I just had Spirit talk her out again. And when I was looking, it said something about like, I'm an ancient being, or I've been here 1,000 years. Or
so when I got
that
free the land and stuff like that, like we kept on getting things about ancient and land and stuff like that. So we're like, something is here that's not a part of this at all.
Yeah, that was this hotel here originally.
Yeah,
specifically had said, let's see. Oh yeah, so I'm from ancient times. And then we got up and then we walked into our room, and right when we were like recording, it was like bench, because we were sitting on that bench, and I was like,
oh, it wants us to
come back.
Yeah.
So we need to go back and talk to it. But we did not, because I was like, I'm a little scared about that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going.
I think my favorite experience though was sitting at that inn with just Todd and Donna, Shay and me and my husband, because we had the flashlight, which was really active, and I had my ghost talker, and then we had the REM pod, and later we pulled out. There was an EMF as well, and then we pulled out the dead bell.
Yeah.
And my thing, all night we had been getting like sometimes random names, but I gotta pull it up. My thing gave so many names. It was started like off
name
with
after name after name, and it was like all like one after the other too, which like previously, like when we'd use this throughout the night, like we'd get like one or two names, but like it would be like one name and then like a bunch of different messages and then like another name.
Sure.
But like when we were sitting out there, it was literally name.
I popped it open and immediately it said Jordan 12. You're like, okay. We're like, hi Jordan, are you here? And then
it's 23 actually, but anyway. Sorry, that was a joke.
Oh.
Michael Jordan.
Oh, sorry. I was like, no, I'm reading it.
She's like, no, I'm reading it.
And then it said, like, stay and talk. I'm afraid. And we were like, okay, well, we're talking. And it said, my name is Emily. And it said, my name is Emily. And then it said, don't disrespect us. And we're like, that felt weird, right? Yeah. And so then it was said, my name is Irene. And then it started saying other words, and it said Theodore, Enid. And then all of a sudden it said, I want you out. And we're like, whoa. And we were like, that's weird. And like, because the kids were like, what was feeling like a bunch of kid energy. Like, it felt like these were all kids talking to us.
Yeah.
It felt like almost Mr. Cloyd walked in and was like, I want you out of here. Like, this is my hotel. Get out, to the kids. Because then it was quiet. No device was going off. Nothing. It was like he walked in, said it, went back to his business, and the kids like went and hid again. Dang. And then, so it was like quiet for a while, like 9 minutes until I got another word. And then it was, I wandered these grounds, which are like, okay. And then it said gravestone. And it said the chair of torture, which the only chair that was open was where the flashlight was. And we're like, it's not a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's just a flashlight. It really
felt like a kid was like, oh, if I go over there, then I'm going to
And then we were talking to it, and then it said, you are kind, after we kind of were like, it's okay, And then it said terror, and then it said get out again, get out. And then it was quiet again. And so we were like, and it happened again. And then it said, hi, my name is Betty. And it says, please move back. And it was funny because we had one of the investigators come up and talk to us, and he had like walked into the room, and I was like, please move back. And he was like, oh, okay, I'll back up. And he like backed up out of the room.
Yeah.
And then it was, you see us, you understand. And then it said, Arthur died a long time ago. What's your name? Like, it was like, I'm telling you, it was like talking to us.
Yeah.
And it says,
also, this is a new app that you guys are using,
yes,
right?
Yeah. We'll have to get a few. And then all of a sudden it said, no, get out. So it like felt like Mr. Cloyd had was walking up and doing his job,
in and
like
dispersing.
Yeah.
And then it was like quiet. And then 10 minutes later it said, we're delighted you're here. Right? And you're like, okay, the kids are back.
Betty and Emily.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Or also it could have been Mr. Cloyd.
Oh, yeah. Maybe he was like, I'm so sorry these kids are bothering. Right, we're so glad you're here.
We're so glad you're here.
And then I got, my name is Rose. And then it just kind of started talking about, like, I did a few more words that weren't off. But it was like, we were sitting here and we were thinking, and like my husband was like, hey, if you're kids, let's count. So he said, I'm going to count. What is the highest number you can count to? And so he's like, I'm going to start. And you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Flashlight went on.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, you can count to 10. And then, so it was like these, like, it just felt so playful. And also the REM pod was like, it felt like my 2-year-old was standing there just holding on to the device. Yeah, it was like going off for like because when you watch ghost shows, it's like dee and then it turns off. It was like dee and it would be like, okay, can you please step away from it? So
my other favorite part is like right when all of this is happening, all of a sudden the investigator that had just come in is like, everyone shh, shh, shh. And all you hear is
and you're like, oh no, it's a ghost.
And I was like, he was like, what is that?
Do you hear
and I was
that?
like, that's just my husband.
He's snoring
in the next room.
And she said, I'll go tell him to stop. And she left, and she never came back.
Oh my God. I was so tired at that point.
I think we did another like 10 minutes. And then we
were like there for another 15, 20 minutes. And
so what time was that at?
That was like
right before
12:30.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a fun to end it. And that's why I wish like our whole night was that way, because like I pulled up the few recordings that we did, the digital recordings, but the problem is that there's like 7, 8, 10 people with us.
Right.
So you're
right.
Like, so sometimes you hear someone whisper
anything.
And you're like, that's probably someone just whispering in the hallway talking to a friend.
Yeah.
And so I really want to do an investigation where it's like a smaller group where we can actually do, because the thing about this place is that they have really good EVP of little kids talking. Yeah. So like they showed us someone. It was like, you hear this little boy say, I was choked in that corner. And it was like, you could hear that it was a little boy. Or like, he'd be like, hi. Like, I mean, it was like, It was super cool. So I was like, I want to go back and be like, do some EVPs there.
Yeah. And I feel like
it's
like weird because it's like, I know. The cool thing is that they do haunts like at least twice a month. So we can literally go back.
Yeah. We'll leave our husbands here and we'll go.
Right. Exactly. And that's really fine. We can sleep in, room, what was it? 18.
Oh yeah.
Where it has like the big bed and then it has the twin bed. They had apparently in that room they had to take the mattress and cut it up into little pieces because it kept levitating.
Oh, in Sarah's room, the beds were like strapped to the walls. Because they move so much. Yeah. And that there was a mom and daughter, and we go to me like, yo, if you get scared in the night, you can come over to us. And in the morning, they couldn't find their key. Someone had taken the key. And
they left their flashlight on the chair where they had actually captured using ghost tube ALS or what is it? ALS or something.
It's when the dots you form out the body of someone.
They literally captured a little body sitting in that chair. Yeah. Like a child sitting there.
Oh my gosh.
And the next morning where they had that flashlight, the flashlight was missing. Yeah. Can't find it.
And they told us, they're like, before you go to bed, take pictures of everything because lots of things like to move and take things in the middle of the night.
Yep. That is so crazy.
I know.
Okay, so
I don't even think we locked our door.
Probably not.
No, because unless my husband didn't, but I don't remember him. My only problem is that like in the middle of the night, I was like, whenever I got scared, I like snuggled up to my husband. And I was like, yay! Because I can snuggle up to you guys, but it's different when you're like, it's your person and you're like, there's something creepy in here. I just want you to hold me.
Me this morning after watching an ice video.
Snug up.
We're going to have to draw straws on who would be sleeping in the small bed.
Oh my gosh.
We'd all have to take turns, like a 3-hour shift.
Or just know that like that night we were like, listen,
we're all sleeping.
We're gonna stay up the whole night and investigate.
Yeah,
because
we went 2 different ways there. We're staying up all night, and I said we're all sleeping together.
Yeah, we're all sleeping together. Because I was like I got it. I was tired, and it's a long night, and I think when you investigate in anyways, you get drained because they're draining you.
You're using your energy, and I think honestly the spirits feed off of your
energy. Yeah, Todd had a few things that died all the way. Like when you watch the ghost shows and something gets drained, like he had a new device.
Full battery.
And it died. And I also they reached out to us. We were like, thank you. We had so much fun with you. So we followed them. They followed us. And I messaged her back and I was like, you live like, I think they live in Chattanooga. And I was like, we need to do an investigation again. And she was like, hell yeah. Oh, so we just need to get together with Todd and Donna.
I already looked up the place that they were talking about that they did in Chattanooga. That's close to their house. So I'm sure they'd go back
to Chattanooga.
Right.
I'm down.
Well, and once you figure out if we can stay at your family's plantation, if we can do it by ourselves overnight there.
Sick. That is, I know, that's the dream.
That's the dream. So you need to make that happen and want Donna and Todd with us.
The one thing that felt really comfortable about this, though, is that there were people there that have investigated there like multiple times. Yeah. And so it felt safe. Yeah. Like it didn't feel like we were talking to anything malevolent or anything like, not that I necessarily think that there are things like that, but I would be really like, I don't know, anywhere else, like anywhere that hasn't like been investigated previously, I would be like really scared.
Yeah. Well, maybe not stay the night there, but if we could like investigate deep into the night. Yeah. Because like the other places we want to go, Belmead is more of a location that we're just going to have to go in the daylight and investigate.
Well, I think that's what normally is. But I wonder, I don't know. There's got to be places that we can go to. Yeah. Just us, but yar.
You need to make that happen. It's your family's plantation. So
really is.
You need like, hey, I need to cleanse the ground.
Please.
Of all the bad that happened here. But anyways, guys, we recommend you guys going to the Thomas Hotel. It was a lot of fun. We want to go again.
We're going to be going again.
Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee. They also do shows there. Yeah. So if you're interested in like going and seeing a play, they do them there.
They have an antique store there you can go shop in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A room.
There was definitely some asbestos on something. So be careful whatever you touch.
They also have rooms that have like the doors are caged off and they're all like themed. So it's like a Christmas theme, a Gone with the Wind theme, a room full of dolls.
Yikes.
a room full of toys, which when we were next to the one that was Gone with the Wind, it had a lot of toys, and my thing said toys, which was fun. And I was like, oh yeah, there are toys there.
You're right.
So, all right, well, why don't we
do our tarot
pool and then end this podcast? All right, guys, from our regular deck, I pulled Judgment upright. So Judgment is about rebirth, inner calling, a new phase, absolution, awakening, redemption, forgiveness, and mercy.
I love that.
Yeah.
From our apothecary deck, I pulled Hibiscus. Its practical uses: it can be used as a laxative, lowers blood pressure, reduces swelling, has antibiotic properties, and it's good for high cholesterol. Magically, it's useful for love jar creation, powerful passion properties, good for divination, and freedom, magic, and spells.
And from our mineralogy deck, we pulled Aquamarine.
Ooh, I love that movie.
Me too. I also love that stone.
It's a great movie, but also I love this stone. It's so pretty. It controls your throat chakra and your heart chakra. It's also metaphysical uses are for creating calmness, peace, joy, attracting success, gambling, luck, if you are in the market to gamble, overcoming grief, concentration, creativity, self-awareness, imagination, confidence, and purity.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast about the Thomas House. Our next one, we are going to try to do one of the other locations, which are the Bell Witch Cave,
Carton Plantation,
or Bell Mead Plantation. So hopefully we get another fun investigation out of that. Whoop, whoop.
And if you've ever been to the Thomas House Hotel, let us know what your experiences were like in the comments, please. I'm dying to know.
Did you hear the whistle?
Did you? Did you?
All right, Witchlings. Thanks for joining us again. The light in me sees the light in you.
Bye.
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 And all you hear is...
And you're like, oh no, it's a ghost.
And I was like... He was like, what is that?
Do you hear
and I was
that?
like, that's just my husband.
He's snoring
in the next room.